Habari, everybody. Habari means hello in Swahili. All right. That's all the Swahili you need to know right now. In this video, I want us to take a look at the Linux commands that everybody must master, right? Now, if you've been working with Linux, you probably have mastered all the commands that I'm going to be teaching you today. But if you're just getting started in Linux, you need to master these. Let's get right in. Okay, so the first thing you need to know is tab completion. We use a tab quite a lot to complete stuff. So for example, let's say you want to type in ifconfig. So I can just do ifcon and then I hit tab and then it's going to finish the command for me. Part of this reason is because you don't want to make a lot of mistakes when you're typing things. And a lot of people that are just getting started in Linux, they tend to want to type everything. Well, yeah, we don't do that. So you type in something, then you tab it as a way of completing it. For example, let's say that I do ping and then I hit a tab. Well, if there are multiple things that begin with a PIN, like similar where you see a PIN, well, it's going to come back and say, okay, well, which one are you looking for? Then I can keep hitting tab to start selecting each one of these until I find which one that I'm looking for. In this case, I'm looking for ping. So once I get to ping, I hit enter, and then a ping is going to be selected for me. That's tab. We use a tab a lot, especially for the big commands. Another command that is useful is sudo. So often when you're using Linux, you use Linux as a regular user. One of the reasons is because you don't want to mess around with anything or delete anything. Linux, everything is a file. So you can easily make a mistake. You can easily delete, system files, right? So often we use Linux as a regular user. But whenever you want to do something that will make a change to a system or access something that require administrative privileges, you will use sudo. So you want to type in, for example, let me try to access the etc file. The shadow file. I'm going to just do etc. I hit a tab and then I go to shadow. I hit a tab again, right? Let me type the whole thing, tab. Now it's completed, right? If I hit enter, cat is just a way of seeing what's inside another thing. For example, right now I just say cat shadow. Shadow happens to be in this folder. So I'm just basically saying, hey, show me what's inside of a shadow. Well, this thing is coming back and saying, hold on a minute. Well, you don't have a permission to do that, right? So, but what if I use a sudo? So what if I say sudo cat, etc. shadow? I hit a tab to finish this and then hit enter. Well, it's coming back. It's like, okay. So you use sudo. Now you do have permission. Now you can access this thing, right? So that's sudo. Which basically means every time you're trying to do anything that require extra permission, you have to use a sudo. That can get annoying quickly unless you got used to it. So what if you want to become sudo and say sudo for a little bit? Well, you can type in sudo su dash, for example. You type in sudo su dash. Usually it will ask you for password, right? It didn't because I tapped in the password earlier. So sudo dash is going to go ahead and be like, oh, okay, so you want to become sudo. We got it. So you want to become root. Excuse me. We got it. And then it's going to change that François into root. Right. And then as you can see, this is in red. It's in red for a reason. It's because I can easily make a mistake here that I'm not going to sort of like. So let me exit out of this. Right. Just type in exit and then hit enter on your keyboard. And then let's keep looking at different commands that you must master as you work with Linux. Another command that's really interesting is print working directory. You do pwd, you hit enter, and then you're asking Linux, hey, where am I located, right? In my case, I am in home with François, right, as the directory there or the user there. So that's great. But what if I want to see what's inside of a François? Well, I can just use ls, another command. You type in ls, you hit enter, and now all these things are inside of François. You can see desktop, documents, downloads, and everything in between. So what if I want to go inside of a desktop here? Well, there's another command that I can use, cd. So I can type in cd space I can start typing in desk, and then I can tab on the keyboard. It's going to complete the desktop. Then I can hit enter on the keyboard. Now, as you can see right now, from right there, it went from right there to right here. That tells me I am inside the desktop directory or the desktop folder. If I ls inside of the desktop, there is nothing. Desktop is empty. So what if I want to create another folder? How do I do that? Well, I can type in make directory or make dr. And then I can put a space. Then I can just call this whatever I want to call this. Let me call this from Africana, for example. Africana, right? I hit enter. And now, it has been created. But the issue with Linux, it doesn't give you any feedback, right? You kind of sort of trust it. But if I were to do ls and then hit enter again, there is the Africana directory, Africana folder right here that I just created using make directory here. So I can also cd into Africana. I can say cd into Africana. I can hit a tab. It's going to autocomplete that for me. I hit enter. Now, as you can see right here, I am inside of a desktop, inside of Africana as well. If I were to ls, there is nothing inside of Africana, right? Okay, so now what if I want to get out of Africana? So I can say cd and then say dash dash. Well, that dash dash means, hey, take me back one folder or one directory. If I hit enter, now I am out of Africana. I am here in desktop, right? What if I want to get out of desktop? Again, cd dash dash again. It takes me back to where I was earlier, right here. If I ls, now I can see everything including desktop, right? So a few other commands that are really useful. We can create files. So one of the commands that we can use to do exactly just that is touch. So I can touch something. Let's say that I touch François, that text. So if I hit enter and ls, there is now a file known as François.txt, right? I just created one. So what if I want to add stuff into the François? Well, I can use nano, for example. I can say nano, François, text. I hit enter. Now it's going to open up this text editor here that's known as nano. Then I can start adding stuff here. I can say, hello world, right? I am François, and this is my Linux, right? So on and so forth. So once I finish with that, I can do Control X on the keyboard, and then it's going to ask me, hold on a minute, you sure you don't want to save this? I'm going to say, yes, I want to save that, right? By typing Y or hitting Y on the keyboard. And it's going to be like, okay, now we've saved that. I just hit enter. Now, whatever I just created has been saved inside of a François. Your question will be, okay, so how do I see what's inside of François? Well, I can just say cat, right? Remember earlier how I mentioned cat was a way of seeing things that are inside of other things? That's exactly right. So in this case, I can just say cat and then type in François here. I hit enter. Now I can see everything that's inside of François that I just recently created. Another command is echo. So you can echo stuff. For example, you can just type in echo and just say François. And then basically all you're saying, hey, repeat this back to me, right? You say echo François, it's gonna just say François. But what if I wanna write this into a file, right? What if I wanna write whatever I'm echoing into, a text file? Well, let me clear the screen quickly here. I can say, okay, echo hello world, and then I can just say, I can append this to file 1, for example, text. Let me just do that. I hit enter. It doesn't repeat this back to me, right? It doesn't echo this back to me because it has been written into this file right here. So if I were to ls, I should be able to see file 1 right there. If I were to cat what's inside of a file 1, I should be able to see hello world right there, right? So what if I want to write additional stuff into this? So I can still use echo. I can say echo, this is my first time using Linux. So here is the thing. If I were to do append again and just say fire1, it's going to delete hello world and just append this new thing right here, right? So the way of avoiding this is by going back and just use two of these, right? And if I were to hit enter, now it took this right here, it wrote this under the hello world. And we can see that by heading into fire1 again, right? If I can just say fire1, and then I hit enter, and then you can see that there is hello world and there is, this is my first time using Linux, right? Okay, what if I want to copy stuff? So one of the things that I could do is use another command known as a CP. This is copy. Then I can say CP fire1. I can tab it to finish it. Then I can say copy that into the desktop directory. Then I can tab it to finish the desktop. So all I'm doing here is copying this thing into this location. That's all I'm doing. If I were to hit enter right now, well, there is a copy. There is this guy still here because I just made a copy. But if I were to ls into desktop right now, if I were to ls into desktop, you should see that there is the file1 in there as well. So what if I want to move a file, right? There's another command known as mv or move. So I can type in, for example, let's try to remove François here. So I can just move, right? I can move François. I can use a tab, if I can spell this right, François into desktop. And let's move François into the Africana directory that happened to be in the desktop. So I can just say Africana, and then I hit a tab and finish that again. I hit enter. If I were to ls here, it's gone, right? François, it's no longer there. But if I were to ls into desktop, and then inside of Africana, we should see François in there. So that's how you move things around as well. So what if I want to move directory? Or actually, what if I want to move a file? Well, let me go inside of Africana and try to move François. Try to remove it, right? Get rid of it. So if I were to cd again into desktop, and then Africana, and hit enter, I can ls here, and then you can see that there's François in there. If I were to want to remove this, I can just say rm, then type in François, and then tab again to finish it up. I hit enter. Now François is gone. I can ls, and there is no François anywhere, right? What if I want to move a directory, right? Because rm works for files, but it cannot remove a folder or a directory. So what I can do is cd -- to go back, and then let's just say we want to remove, let me ls again. Let's say that we want to remove this guy, right? I am inside of a desktop right now, and I want to get rid of Africana. So I can just say I can say rmdr, right? This is a remove directory. Then I can just say Africana. I hit it, tab, I hit enter. Now Africana is gone. If I do ls, Africana is nowhere to be found. All right, so let's go back. Actually, let me go ahead and clear the screen first. Clear. Now let's go back by doing cd -- again, and we are back at the beginning. So let's say that we want to change permissions, right? One of the things that we could do is try to play around a little bit with what we normally call options. Options are a way of giving these commands superpower, like literally giving them some superpower. And the best way to see the options of any given command is by going to the man page of that command. man ls, right? I hit enter. Now it takes me to the manual page of ls, and there's a lot of things here. So these are what they normally call options. Options will give you like additional usability, additional superpower over that given commands. So feel free, every time you don't remember what command's supposed to do, or you wanted the command to do more than what you're asking it, go to the manual page of that command. Once you're here, hit Q on the keyboard. Hit the word Q to quit. Hit Q on the keyboard is gonna quit that. So let's say that I want to change permission. So I can say ls-l, for example. And the -l, the option L, it's going is like, okay, these are the permissions for these folders, right? And these files, in this case, file 1. So I can say that there's D for the directory, and there's just a dash for just a file, right? That's how you differentiate them. And the permission goes in, and the permission is divided into 3 different sort of buckets. There is the read right there. There is the write, RWX. There's a read, write, execute, right? RWX, read, write, execute. The first read, write, execute right there belongs to the user, right? Right now, the user that's signed in. The second one belongs to the group which this user happened to be a member of. And the third one belongs to everyone. So everyone that uses this machine, they're going to have this permission assigned to them. So ls-a, that's how we see that. So what if we want to change the permission? There's another command that we use. It's known as a chmod. So I can type in chmod. And then I can just say, okay, well, chmod. And the way we assign permission, there's 2 ways of assigning permission. We can assign them by typing in a dash, read, write, execute, read, write, execute, read, write, execute for everybody else, right? For the user, the group, and everyone. I can do that, or I can use a regular number. So the way Linux works, right? And this might get a little bit confusing, is that the read, write, execute equals 7. Are you like, okay, what do you exactly mean? So what I mean is X equals 1, W equals to 2, and then read equals to 4. So when you add those up, equals 7. So if I were to go in and type in chmod, change like module, like that's what that stands for, and type in 777, it's going to go ahead and change this, change that as well. Let's see that in action. So keep an eye on this right here. File 1, right? Let's change permission. Let's change permission for that one. So I can say chmod 777, and then I can just say file 1. I hit a tab, I hit enter, that's done. So if I do ls-l again and hit enter, you can see, even they changed the color name here. Look at the permission here. It's read, write, execute, read, write, execute, read, write, execute. Everything have been turned on because we used 777, right? So that's how you change permission of a file. This is actually how the security of Linux works. I'm not gonna dig deeper into that, but that's all basically you need to know, the chmod. You can also use shown, this command, that command, to kind of change permission or change ownership of a file, of a directory, and things along those lines. But for the sake of the time, again, this is the cheat sheet, right? Chmod is what we commonly use as well. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and clear the screen. Clear the screen, hit enter. Then we're back where we began. All right, few other commands that are related to networking. So another one of the commands that you can use with the networking is ifconfig. So ifconfig, it's a way of checking to see your network interface configuration. So right now I type in ifconfig. It's going to bring me my interfaces. There's eth0, and it's telling me this is my IP address right there. It's showing me my loopback, and there is this inet right here, the IP address that associated with loopback. So ifconfig is one of the commands. Sometime ifconfig might be not installed, it might be removed, you can always do sudo ifconfig and then it's going to work, right? Or you can just install the tools that are associated with ifconfig. And the way you install something in Linux is by typing in like you start with sudo apt-get, right? apt-get and install. You can literally do install and net-tools, right? You do net-tools, that comes with ifconfig as well, if it wasn't installed into your Linux version. All right, another thing that we can do as a part of the networking is IPA, because ifconfig is being discontinued, right? It's being removed and it's being replaced by IP. So you can do IPA and it's going to give you the same information, a little bit colorful. For example, there's ETH0 again, there's the INET again, and there's the same IP address that we saw earlier. It goes in and shows you the broadcast and a few other things that are really useful. That's the IP command as well. So what if you want to change the IP addresses, right? So one of the things that you could do is modify the files, right? So you can do nano. Nano is the text editor that I showed you earlier, and then go to the etc folder directory, and then go to the network. I hit a tab to finish this, and then go to interfaces, right? Then you hit enter on your keyboard, and then right here is where you want to change the IP addresses right here, right? So for example, you might want to go ahead and type in the IP addresses, the subnet mask. Again, that's a conversation of another tab. So I'm gonna do Control X to get out of that, but that's where you go to change the IP addresses. And I think you could do what if you wanted to restart this networking, because every time you finish changing IP addresses, you might want to restart this. So you might want to type in sudo etc again, and then go to the init. Oops, why I type in Ubuntu? Init, I hit a tab, I hit a -D, and then go to networking. If I can spell networking, and then you do restart. Right? This is how you will go ahead and just restart the networking service. You can also do stop if you want to stop it. You can also do status if you want to check the status of it, and so on and so forth, right? All right, let me go ahead and clear this. Good. Another command that we use as a part of network is ping. So you can ping something. For example, if your computer is not going to the network, you can ping Google 8.8.8.8. That's the Google's DNS. You hit enter. If you are receiving ping that comes back, that means you're getting to the internet just fine if it's pinging back. So I do Control C on the keyboard to stop it. That right there. That's Control C to stop it. And then it comes back, it's like, hey, look, I've sent out 6 packets and the 6 were received and the 0 packets were lost. So that's the ping command. I can also count this. So I can say ping -C for count and then put a number 4, for example. And then I can just do google.com. You can also ping by the name. I hit enter. It's going out there, it's pinging google.com, but it's gonna count to 4, right? The issue with the ping in Linux, it's gonna keep going unless you stop it. But it went out there, it pinged google.com, it said 4 were received, 0 packets were lost, and then everything is working just fine. Okay, so let's finalize this by talking about creating users and then assign passwords to these users. Let me go ahead and clear the screen. And then right here, let's create a new user. I can type in a user add, and let's call this user Africana, right? If I can spell that, Africana. Then I hit enter, and then it's gonna say, hey, look, the permission have been denied. Guess why the permission have been denied? Because I'm a regular user. I'm not doing this as sudo. So another thing that I can do, you can use the not the tab, but the upper arrow key on your keyboard to bring back the previous commands, right? Upper arrow key on your keyboard to bring back the previous commands. For example, I bring back the ones that I just typed. I go back here, I type in sudo, put a space there, then I hit enter again. Now it's asking me, hold on a minute, you're trying to create a new user here, you gotta have to type in your password. Say, okay, that's fine. I type in my password. Now, the thing about Linux, you don't get any feedback when you're typing in password. You sort of trust that it's receiving the password. I hit enter, and now the user has been created, right? So after creating the user Africana, I can create the password for Africana. So let me type in sudo passwd, right? You can use the passwd command to create passwords. Then I can say Africana. I hit enter. Then it's asking me, okay, well, what is the new password for Mr. Africana here? Well, I can just pull in the new password for Mr. Africana. I hit enter again. It's going to ask me, okay, retype that for me, please. I'll put that in again. And then they say it does not match. I sort of know it. So let's try this again. Sudo password Africana, passwd. Then I said, all right. Try again, and then now where he says password update successfully, that means the password has been assigned. Now, after successfully assigning password to Africana, I can check two locations. For example, I can sudo cat into the etc again, right, into the shadow to sort of see if the Africana is there, and sure enough, it's right there. So this is kind of like a hash password of Africana. I can also shadow the password or password WD. So I can just say sudo cat etc passwd. I hit enter, and then I come back here, and there we go. Sure enough, Africana is right here, and this is where Africana is located as well. Right. All right, everybody, this was it. These are the most common commands that we use. Play around with this. You got to master these, because I mean, knowing how to move around the Linux, creating users and stuff like that, you don't do that as often, but knowing how to move around with Linux, you know, editing files, checking your network configuration, doing ls, a change directory, copying things, moving things around along those lines, it's very important. That's why we commonly used in Linux. And I will see you all in the next video. Make sure you subscribe and smash that like button for the algorithm. I'll see you all later. Bye bye.